Hello, everyone. Welcome to Colorway Wednesday, episode number 15. Today, we have a nice, short, sweet, and simple coloring page. This one is by Homemade Gifts Made Easy. Cutesy, I know. One, obviously, because it's spring, but also just because it has daffodils. And fun fact, for those of you who don't know, daffodils are actually in the language of flowers at least, symbolize creativity. So that's kind of like part of my logo as Creative Spark. So we've got that for us today, which is going to be really cute and really fun. It's going to be nice and simple. I'm currently in pre-finals week for my last semester of undergrad, so it's been very hectic. So this is a much needed break. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. But yeah, I love daffodils. I always have loved daffodils because honestly, wrong end. I'm using my A-base markers as always. Not always, but again. Daffodils are a very big part of my life and especially like my own creative journey. Not just because of like the whole language of flowers thing, but there's a musical called Big Fish that I love. Big Fish is a very emotionally important musical for me. And in that, there is a song that is based off of a poem by William Wordsworth, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, also alternatively titled Daffodils. And it's about, you guessed it, daffodils. So I always think about that song and that poem whenever I think about daffodils, and so they're one of my favorite flowers. And then they just happen to align perfectly with my platform. So I thought that'd be cute. I know that like we're kind of in the peak, at least in Oklahoma, of spring weather. Like it's finally feeling like spring specifically. And so I wanted to do like one more coloring page that was very spring vibes because I know that soon it's going to be very much not spring vibes. So, and that is okay. But that's what we got today. It's also a nice, simple one. Like I said, since I'm in pre-finals week, I very much have a lot to get done. But that doesn't mean we can't still be creative. But it does mean that we should be wise with our time when we're being creative. And that's okay because that in and of itself is a different form of creativity. Hopefully next week we will have a guest. We'll see if I can finagle it. But if so, it's going to be a really fun episode. As you may have noticed, I'm in a different area of my living space. Just for funsies. I thought it'd be nice to shake things up a little bit. So we're here now. We're doing all the things. We're working on all the projects, studying for all the exams, learning lots of lines, all sorts of stuff like that. But again, we're underway. We got it. One of my favorite things about daffodils, like it's really funny to me that I like daffodils as much as I do, is because I don't really love the color yellow unless it's daffodils specifically. I don't think it's really that great of a color, mainly because I can't wear it. For me, that seems to be a major qualifier, and whether or not I like colors is how good I look wearing it. So like burgundy, like dark reds, not for me. Anything pastel though, that goes well with my complexion and everything. Yeah, that's great. I love that. So, again, it is what it is. But I hope you guys have been having a great week. I know this time of year just seems to be chaotic for everyone, and I think I touched on this last week. I actually truthfully don't remember. But like this time of year is chaotic for even like non-students and like non-school employees and stuff like that. So whoever you are, I hope you take a deep breath, stop and smell the daffodils, and keep going, because you got it. Let's see. I keep telling myself every time I like do a solo episode like this, I'm like, oh, I need to like write down a couple of ideas and topics for me to talk about. But then I never do. Because ultimately it kind of feels like a silly use of my time. Because might as well just let the conversation go organically. If someone pops in the chat and asks a question, I'll make sure I have time to talk about whatever they ask. So, coloring. This one's going to be cute. I'm really excited about this one. I mean, I'm excited about most of them, like all the time. But, you know, I replayed the Oregon Trail last night for the first time in a while. I had a board game night with some friends at the library. And we played the board game / card game kind of the Oregon Trail. And I was like, man, I really wish I could play it. And then someone told me, they were like, well, why don't you just go on, the website with the game and play it? And I had fully forgotten that website was even a thing. For some reason, I thought it was like you have to download it sort of shindig and deal. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this is so sad. I may never get to play the Oregon Trail that I know and love ever again. That is fully incorrect because it is online. But yeah, so I played that last night. It was pretty good. I forgot how actually complicated the Oregon Trail is. If you don't know what the Oregon Trail is, it's an educational video game, also known as edutainment, where essentially you simulate going on the historic event of the Oregon Trail and participating in it. So you're trying to get from Missouri, I think. I think that's very fitting. I'm pretty sure it's from Missouri. I don't actually remember right now. All the way to Oregon. And so because I remember playing it as a kid. I was homeschooled back in elementary school. And so I spent a lot of my time and my history class and whatnot would be Google Docs that my mom had made that were kind of just full of information and YouTube videos that would teach us things and games that we could play. And that's how we would do history, is there would be those different units of it for every historic event that we went over. And so I remember that Oregon Trail was on one of them, and I played so much of it. But you have to get the ammunition for whenever you go hunting to get, food for your party. You start off with 5 people in your party. You have to get clothing and oxen and spare parts in case your wagon breaks and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And random events can happen on the way as you're making your way to Oregon. Which, as fun as it is, it can also be very unfortunate because something bad will happen completely out of your control immediately following everything else. Sorry, I went on autopilot. And that's okay. I accidentally colored way out of the lines on one of these daffodil petals. But that's okay, because ultimately, technically, coloring inside the lines is not the main focus here. And that's something I have to remind myself of. And it's okay if you have to remind yourself too. Let's see. But yeah, I did, in case you were wondering, I did win the game of Oregon Trail I was playing last night. I don't know how, because multiple of my party members were no longer with us. And then we were very low on food, like very low on food. And we didn't have like any spare clothing. So my party was like freezing cold because they didn't have cold weather clothes. So, got lucky, I guess. And that works for me. One of the crazy things about today is I had my Monday, Wednesday class, obviously, because it's Wednesday. However, it was a very odd feeling because I know for a fact, obviously, that it's my last ever of those classes. Like, obviously, I have my finals next week, but we don't have like that actual class and that actual time or anything. So it was just very odd waking up this morning knowing, oh, this is the last time I have to get up for my 8:30 a.m. movement class. And oh, this is the last time I have to go to my 3:30 p.m. ensemble theater class. I was like, whoa, kind of odd. I mean, obviously, like all semesters come to an end, but it's just like really weird to be like, oh, and it's not like the looming threat of, gotta do it all again next year. It's like, oh, we're done. We're like almost done. That's crazy. But not obviously, I personally am not complaining. I am quite excited for this because ultimately I think it will be kind of nice. Oh yeah, this is going to be a quick episode. Obviously, like I still have the stems and I'm working on another one of the daffodils, but we're already pretty close to done, which is good. I was intending for this to be a shorter episode because I do genuinely have a lot of schoolwork to do. But like I said, like I know I've technically have taken a break 2 times now recently. Consistency is key. This is its own form of discipline, in my opinion. And again, it's really nice, even though this is like a scheduled thing of like, oh, I have to do something creative, blah, 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 blah. I have to do that right now, or like at 7 p.m. CST every Wednesday. However, I think at the end of the day, it's actually been really beneficial because it exactly like reinforces and like every single time I do this, it reinstates exactly why I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I do what I do. This is why I do art. This is why I encourage others to do art. Because it's so helpful. Like, it's so nice. Hopefully you can't hear that in the background. My roommate is currently showering. So she is validly existing in our space. But hopefully you can't hear the water, but if you do hear the water, just know nothing's wrong. Things are working as they're intended to, and that's good. Alrighty. For a lot of my classes, I have very, very untraditional finals. But they're like a different level than like the untraditional finals I'm used to. Because a lot of the ones I'm used to are like, great, okay, you have your script of a scene from a show. You're like, you have it memorized, you practiced it a bunch. Now you just perform it, right? But in a lot of the classes I'm in, it's more complicated than just, oh, yay, you're performing it, which is fine. But like my ensemble theater class, like I mentioned earlier, it's the way that class worked all semester is we would get put into groups within the class and we'd get given a very vague and kind of confusing prompt. And then we would just make something from whatever we were given. So while that was great, obviously, I'm sure you can imagine that would be like really hard to make a final for. So the way it is it's kind of like a best of. So, because we did 6 projects over the course of the semester. So what the professor has us doing is we are taking some of our favorite elements of the 6 projects and just straight up some of our favorite projects. And we are linking them together. We're making a big overarching like message and theme. And so we're working together as a class of 18 students, which has been a really interesting learning curve because you have to like learn how to, one, work in a really big team, but it's like a team with no designated leader, if that makes any sense. Like I'm used to, like I've done a lot of student leadership, right? And so I'm very used to, okay, there's the president, there's this position, great. So meetings and stuff like that are run by the president. Well, that is not the case for this class, obviously, because there is no one in charge. And while that's great, it's also a little confusing sometimes. So we've been like having to find ways to navigate that creatively, which has been fun. There's been a lot of like little challenges of like, oh, well, how do we, like we have a couple of people with very distinct ideas. However, they all kind of clash with one another. So how do we figure out a way to get the best of all worlds rather than just be like, okay, well, we'll go with this one person's idea, as opposed to helping out the other people, right? Not helping out, but like going with other people's ideas and listening to what they have to say, because at the end of the day, the whole point is we're an ensemble, we're a group. So we have to like work together, which doesn't sound like a novel concept, but it's really interesting. I think it's really like a fascinating part of my degree to like have a class that's literally, here's how you work with people, but it's not lecture style, it's hands-on. Here's how you work with people, figure it out through trial and error. Because yeah, we've definitely had like little problems arise here and there throughout the semester. But we, as a class, obviously, we put our heads together and we figure it out, which is really nice. But so that final is very untraditional. And it's untraditional even from a theater standpoint. I mean, it's not like crazy untraditional for a theater standpoint, but it's still different enough that it's like, whoa, okay. And then my movement class, actually, weirdly enough, has a very similar format. It's taught by the same professor, though, so that's not like unheard of, right? But yeah, fun stuff. Let's see. Daffodils are not colored. What else? I had a specific color I was looking for and then I forgot. That's good. That's cute. I found out while I was doing this, like trying to find this coloring page, actually, I was very surprised to learn something new about daffodils, which is the fact that apparently there's like 12 different variants. I didn't realize there was like so many different forms of daffodils. I mean, not forms, they're all daffodils and they're all flowers. But I mean like different shapes, I suppose. I think I'm gonna go with purple for the lettering. Let me grab my paper. Here's the progress so far. Quite cute, but yeah, that's a nice purple. But yeah. Finals week is definitely always very interesting. And obviously, like, it's not actually finals week. Next week's going to be an interesting episode, which is one of the reasons why I'm like, oh, I want to have a guest. Because I'm not sure. I know I'm going to be pretty tired, so I'm not really sure how great quality the stream would be if I'm hosting on my own. I know I'm really tired right now, so I'm sure I technically am not at my A game, and that's okay. Because you know what? We're still here. We're still showing up. And we're still doing our thing. And sometimes that's really mainly what art is, right? Is just still doing things. You know what I mean? Still going for whatever it is your idea is, your dream is. Still just going for it, working for it. And even if it's not panning out exactly how you want, you continue. And it's definitely not panning out exactly how I want because my marker is dying. I have this issue every episode. I was really hoping I'm not even using a blue because my blues are the ones that are incredibly like on their last leg. So I purposely chose not a blue. But apparently this purple is close enough to a blue. To the point that it's almost dried. Not that it's like actually like color close enough. Like its hex is not the same. But let's see. We'll do a couple of different colors. I did a silly little Instagram post earlier where I made a color palette just based off of Princess of America. I thought it was really fun. Just because it was like my own little creative project I got to do. Yeah, it made me very happy. Just because, like, I don't know, it wasn't a very... I felt like it wasn't a post like most of the posts I make. I thought it was a nice change of pace. Not that the things I post typically are bad or like need to change, but sometimes it's nice to have a little like, ooh, this is different. This is fun, you know? And you know what? This pink does not go with the colors I'm using, but that's okay because like I just said, it's fun to have a moment of, this is different, this is unique, this is unusual, which makes it fun. And this is sure unusual, right? Let me show y'all what I'm talking about so you understand like what I mean. Okay, wow, it turns out it looks a lot cuter on camera. Okay, no, that is cute. Never mind. Don't listen to me. I mean, do listen to me, but don't listen to me on that. As you can see, I have Pablo, there we go. Pablo in the background. Fun fact, that is an equivalent of Pin the Tail on the Donkey that my mother made for my 5th birthday, I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I think it's quite cute. Quite cute. But yeah. like I was talking about earlier, I know we're in we're in a different area of my apartment, but I thought it might be fun to shake things up a little. But not only that, like get something new in the background, get something fresh. Which, I mean, granted, I'm gonna move out soon, so things will be different and new and or fresh in not too long. But it's still fun to go ahead and do now. You know, some of these colors, because the fun thing about these markers is the lids have the color on them rather than like a color name. It just has straight up like color on it. And while that's really nice, because then you can look at your little pouch full of markers and go, ah, yes, I see this nice little green shade I'd like. It's a little unfortunate whenever you start using them and then you realize that the green you're using, whoa, wow, I just like fully kicked a table. So sorry about that. But then you realize the green you're using is like an entirely different color than what you were envisioning. That's cute. I'm going for a less realistic shade for the grass, just because I think it'll be fun. Add some artistic flair, some personality. Because ultimately, while it is nice to color something and look at it and go, ah, yes, even if you didn't know what this was based on the shape somehow, but you saw the color, you would know exactly what it was. However, that is not the case here. That makes no sense. I'm so sorry, guys. I am quite tired, and that's okay. One of my friends had a birthday the other day, and we ended up being out a lot later than we expected because so we were at my friend's apartment, and then one of my other friends who was there, she had rode her bike to this hangout, which normally there wouldn't be anything wrong with it, but we stopped hanging out around like almost 1 a.m., which is really late for all of us now because all of us are a lot older than we used to be. And by that I mean we actually need sleep now. Because I don't know, whenever this group of people used to hang out sophomore year, we would be able to stay up to like 4 a.m. and still go to class the next day and be perfectly fine. That is not the case anymore. But so we were all hanging out playing a game, and she was falling asleep the entire time. And then she was like, okay, it's time to bike home. And we were like, no, honey, you were just falling asleep the entire time we were hanging out. We're not letting you bike home at 1 a.m. And it was a whole thing because we were like, oh, this friend will like drive your bike back to your place so you have it in the morning. And like I will drive you to your place and it will be good. But then the chain popped off the bike. My friend who was driving is perfectly fine. Like he noticed it, he pulled over, he was all good. But it was just like a very chaotic little night for just a night that we had spent just playing Mario Party and eating Papa John's. Which, don't get me wrong, a very treasured memory now, I'm sure. Obviously, it was only a couple of days ago, but was still a very lovely time. And it's also always nice getting to celebrate your friends and just the fact that they exist or the fact that they did something cool. But yeah. So I'm still recovering from that. And then obviously I had to wake up quite early for my 8:30 a.m. class, which is fine. The fun thing about that class is next week, that class, the final time slot they give us, because fun fact, in college you get very different, like you get a time slot for your finals rather than just, oh, you show up during that typical class period, because they typically allot extra time or a specific amount of time for each final. So that being said, that final for the 8:30 class is going to be at 8 a.m. And the professor wants us to show up early. So, which isn't that bad. I know people who get up at like my mom gets up at almost 4 a.m. to go to work most days. I cannot fathom. I cannot. Because I imagine she's tired a lot. And I do not envy her. I might play more Oregon Trail after this. Or maybe I'll work on schoolwork. The world may never know. I don't know. I was genuinely so thrown off last night whenever I was playing Oregon Trail again, and I realized that it's so much more complicated than I remembered it being. Because I remembered like playing it as a kid, and yeah, it was a challenge to win, but I didn't remember it being like genuinely a game where you would have to like actively be like, okay, so I got to strategize. I only have so much money. I only have this. I only have that. And like, not only that, at the very top of the game, you select what your job is. And so that affects how much money you have as a like player. So it affects how much money you start off with. Like, goodness, dude. I did not remember that at all. So whenever I saw that yesterday, I was like, oh, what? You're joking, right? Right? Not joking. And that's okay. Let's see. If you notice my shirt, this is from an Oklahoma staple. If you don't know, Oklahoma stuff. Joe's is a deal, not a deal. It's just a deal. Is a pretty big deal here. More often than not, if you grow up in Oklahoma, you have probably seen they have these little plastic cups that they have both for sale, and if you just get a soda or something there, they'll come in these cups. Goodness gracious. It's like weirdly ingrained in Oklahoman culture. Which, don't get me wrong, like my grandma loved this place. And so like there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just such a fascinating phenomena, I guess. The fact there come so many like Oklahomans, and even just like honestly around America, not like everywhere, but it's a surprisingly famous burger place. Even though I'm gonna be real, the burgers aren't that good. I hate to break it to you. They're kind of mediocre. But yeah. I actually was going to change before live streaming, but I was chatting with my roommate and then lost track of time, and then it was time to start. And so I was like, well, guess this is what we are wearing, which is fine. But it's very much a like I said, an Oklahoma staple. I don't think I've ever met a single Oklahoman who did not know what Joe's was. I mean, granted, if you do refer to it only as Joe's, maybe they won't know. I refrain from using the full name just because I know that, like, it can be seen as being, like, not favorable wording, I suppose. It's not, like, bad. It's just more of a, just kind of an outdated word. And that's okay. Oh my gosh, I'm on my last stem. This has been a really fun coloring page. Mainly, like, genuinely. Sometime this summer, I think we'll do a special where just like a ridiculously complicated coloring page, and I'm going to like force myself to color it all in one go on stream. Just because I think it'd be funny to be like, because almost, I don't think I've had a single Colorway Wednesday stream actually go over an hour. I try to be pretty good about cutting off at 8 p.m., if even. But it'd be really funny to have like a weirdly long episode at some point. Alrighty. But we are already done with our sheet. I say already, it's only 7:42 for me, which technically I do typically wrap up coloring around these times. But with that being said, here is my final product. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it's fun. Again, daffodils are the flower in the language of flowers that technically symbolize creativity. So I hope that something about this today has inspired you to create something, or at minimum to do a little self-care, take care of yourself, take a break, take some time for yourself. And remember that obligations are cool, but you're cooler and you deserve to be well taken care of. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. So thank you so much for joining me for episode 15. It's been a lovely time, and I shall see you next week. Bye-bye, and thank you so much for joining us.